Victory.
On June 28, 1914, in the capital of Bosnia, a village called Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife Sophie were waving to the happy crowds from their motorcade when a young man leapt from the sidewalk and shot them both dead. The assassination was used by the Austria-Hungary government as an opportunity to make an example of Serbia and squelch any nationalist uprisings in the future. 1 month later, Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia. World War I had begun.
In World War I, there were two sides fighting, the Central Powers and the Allied Powers. The Central Powers were Germany, Ottoman Empire, and Austria-Hungary. The Allied Powers were Great Britain, France, Russia, and Italy. Who's for the trench? Are you, my laddie? Who'll follow French? Will you, my laddie? Who's fighting to begin? Who's going out to win? And who wants to save his skin? Do you, my laddie?
Gee, I wish I were a man. I'd join the Navy.
August 3rd, 1914. At last, I have got my orders. Dear Mother, please try and remember if at this time we think of ourselves and those who belong to us, we shall be petty and weak. We must have a broad outlook and think of our nation, our fatherland of God.
A typical day of training in the war started at 5:30 a.m.
We tidied up our quarters and had a brew. At 6:30, recruits would parade for an hour and a half to work on their fitness.
Later would come weapon handling, marksmanship, and digging trenches.
The goal of trench warfare was to defend our own trench while trying to take the enemy's trench. Neither side gained very much ground in a short period of time. Trench warfare is a defensive measure. The trenches were muddy and had many creatures living in them, such as rats, frogs, lice, and worms.
First, we done 4 days in one of the support trenches. The dugouts were good, the trenches were deep. We used to have the parapet swept with Fritz's machine gun fire, but we felt safe as long as we kept down. The next day, our artillery warned Fritz, and he retaliated with minnow wipers and explosive trap. That was my first experience of bursting shells, and I was more interested in watching the explosions and the dugouts and duckboards going up in the air than frightened. Or everyone gets the window.
He moaned through the bandages that his head was splitting with pain. I gave him morphine. Suddenly, aware of the fact that he had lots of wounds, he asked, "Say, what's the matter with my legs?" Reaching down to feel his legs before I could stop him, he uttered a heartbreaking scream. I held his hands firmly until the drug I had given him took full effect.
Dear father, mother, and sisters, Pa, I want you to have me a pair of boots made. Those shoes you had made me for ripped all to pieces. Our regiment used everything we had. I have no blankets nor any clothes but what I've got. I got the suit that you sent me. They came at a good time. I like them very well. If I had a pair of boots or shoes, I'd be the best clothed man in the regiment. W. Adams.
Delivery, thy name is Germany. Soldiers trapped by a gas cloud lying unconscious in the trenches.
Gas, gas, quick boys. A next sea of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but someone still was yelling out, stumbling and thundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green lights, as under a green sea I saw him drowning. My dear wife, the days after the battle are 1,000 times worse than the day of the battle, and the physical pain is not the greatest pain suffered. How awful is it? You have not can have until you see it any idea of sufferers after the battle. The dead appear sickened, but they suffer no pain. But the poor wounded related soldiers that yet have life and sensation make a most horrid picture. I pray God may stop such infernal work, through perhaps he has sent it upon us for our sins. Great indeed must have been our sins, if such is our punishment. W.C.
Dear folks, our underclothes were foul and hanging in strips. Our socks worn out, and half of the men were barefooted. Many were lame and sent to the rear, others with sterner stuff hobbled along and managed to keep up, while gangs from every company off in the surrounding country looking for food. Many became ill exposure and starvation and were left on the road. The ambulances were full and the whole route route was marked with a sick, lame, limping lot that strangled in the farmhouses that lined the way, and who in all cases supported and cared for them.
8.5 million soldiers died and 21 million were wounded during World War I. Civilians also died from starvation, disease, and slaughter. The war destroyed acres of farmland, homes, villages, and towns. Total war caused countries' governments to invest everything in the war. This caused Russia to withdraw, and the overall war cost was $300